Winter 2016. A lab in Nagoya, Japan. A physicist is scanning films fresh from months inside the Great Pyramid, recording particles that fall from space and pass through stone. The two known chambers appear right where they should. Then a third shape, enormous, where there should be solid rock. Announce that and be wrong and careers end. So they hand the data to two rival teams and wait. Nobody can prove them wrong. The most measured building on Earth is hiding a room the size of an airliner cabin, and no one can reach it. That void is number 1. Before it, a 70-ton box in a tunnel too narrow to turn it, a drowned shaft under Giza, a buried ship older than Stonehenge. These are 10 ancient structures in and around Cairo that no one can fully explain. Number 10. The city Cairo swallowed. There is a granite obelisk standing in a small park in Mataria, a crowded district in Cairo's northeast, hemmed in by apartment blocks, traffic, and laundry lines. It is 20 meters tall, carved almost 4,000 years ago. It is the oldest obelisk on Earth, still standing where its builders placed it, and nearly all that remains above ground of one of the most important cities of the ancient world. This was Heliopolis, the city of the sun, called Iunu by the Egyptians. Its temple was among Egypt's largest, its priests famous across the ancient Mediterranean, and pharaohs endowed it for 2,000 years. Then it declined, its stones were carted off to build Cairo, and the city of the sun disappeared under the city we know. But it is still down there, and it keeps surfacing. In 2017, archaeologists working in a waterlogged pit between Mataria houses hauled up pieces of a colossal quartzite statue, 8 meters of pharaoh rising out of the groundwater in front of a crowd of neighbors. Headlines called it Ramses the Great. Then the inscriptions were cleaned, and the statue turned out to be Psamtik I, a ruler most people have never heard of, which raised a better question. If a colossus that size could sit unknown under a residential street, what else is under Mataria? Nobody can answer that because you cannot excavate a living neighborhood. The city of the sun sits under the laundry lines, surfacing one accident at a time. Heliopolis was swallowed by a city. Number 9 was buried on purpose in pieces beside the most famous building on Earth. Number 9. The buried ship. It is 1954. And an architect named Kamal El-Malik is clearing rubble along the south side of the Great Pyramid when his workers hit a row of limestone slabs that should not be there. He has a hole cut through one, leans in with a mirror to catch the sunlight, and later says the first thing that reached him was the smell. Cedar, sealed in with the ship for 4,600 years. Each roofing slab weighed as much as a city bus, and lifting them meant that one slip would crush what 4,600 years had preserved. Under them lay a full-size royal ship, 1,224 pieces of Lebanese cedar, stacked in order like the world's oldest flat-pack kit. Reassembled, it is over 43 meters long, longer than a Boeing 737, older than the great stones of Stonehenge, and it had never touched open water in all that time or possibly ever. Restorers took more than a decade to rebuild it, with no instructions except the order of the stack. Because ask yourself, what is a full-size ship doing a kilometer from the nearest water? One school says it is a solar boat, built so the dead king could sail with the sun god across the sky. Another says it carried Khufu's body on its final journey down the Nile and was buried as part of the funeral itself. The evidence allows both, and the pyramid complex deepens the puzzle. A second sealed pit beside the first held another dismantled ship, and other empty boat-shaped pits surround the pyramid. One buried ship is a ritual. A fleet is a system, and nobody has recovered the logic behind it. The great ship was moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum in 2021 on a remote-controlled vehicle, the shortest and slowest voyage of its life. Had you ever heard that an entire ship was buried beside the Great Pyramid? Tell us in the comments, because number 8 goes underneath the pyramid that started everything, into a labyrinth almost nobody gets to see. Number 8. The labyrinth under the first pyramid. 20 kilometers south of Giza at Saqqara stands the step pyramid of Djoser, and its resume is simple, the first monumental stone building in human history. Around 2650 BC, a royal official named Imhotep stacked 6 stone platforms into a 60-meter mountain, inventing large-scale stone architecture in the process, and was eventually worshipped as a god for it. The mystery is not the pyramid, it is what Imhotep did underneath it. Below the step pyramid runs a network of shafts, galleries, and corridors nearly 6 kilometers long, a scale no later pyramid ever attempted. Chambers walled in brilliant blue faience tiles imitate reed palaces. One store alone held tens of thousands of stone vessels, bowls and jars of alabaster and hard stone, many carved with the names of earlier kings, as if Djoser buried a library of his ancestors under his own tomb. So ask the obvious question, why does one burial need an underground city? It has never been settled. And then there is the duplicate. In the same enclosure sits the so-called South Tomb, a second burial apartment richly decorated with a granite vault too small to hold a body. A tomb for the king's spirit, a home for his ka, a stand-in for a second royal burial in the south. Every explanation has defenders and none has proof. The first architect in recorded history left us the first pyramid, and under it the first unsolved floor plan. Imhotep dug 6 kilometers for one king. Number 7 is a tunnel dug for bulls, and what is parked inside it is the heaviest puzzle on this list. Number 7, the boxes in the dark. It is 1850, and a young Frenchman named Auguste Mariette is in Saqqara chasing a sentence written 1,800 years earlier. The geographer Strabo had described an avenue of sphinxes leading to a sanctuary buried by sand. Mariette finds a sphinx head poking from a dune, follows the buried avenue, and when the sand and sealed rock finally stop him, he blasts his way through with gunpowder into the Serapeum, an underground gallery where Egypt entombed the sacred Apis bulls, animals worshipped as living gods. What he found in the tunnels still stops visitors today. Lining the rock-cut galleries are more than 20 sarcophagi of granite and other hard stone, single boxes weighing around 60 to 70 tons with their lids, the weight of a loaded semi-truck carved into one object, polished to a near mirror in places, parked in niches off a corridor barely wider than the boxes themselves. Now picture the job. Parallel parking a loaded semi-truck in the dark with no engine around a corner with centimeters to spare. Then doing it again 20 times. The honest mystery here is logistics. Mainstream archaeology has good answers for how Egyptians moved great weights in the open: sledges, ramps, wet sand, enormous manpower. The Serapeum moves the problem underground, into the dark, around corners, with no room to swing a lever and no ceiling height to spare. It was clearly done dozens of times, so it was clearly possible. But no text, no drawing, and no tool from the operation survives, and every modern reconstruction remains exactly that, a reconstruction. 60 tons in the dark, around a corner. Somebody knew precisely how. Number 6 is about the man whose family perfected all of this, and the pyramid he apparently got wrong on purpose. Number 6, the pyramid that changes its mind. Drive 40 kilometers south of Cairo to Dahshur and you meet the strangest silhouette in Egypt. The bent pyramid rises from the desert at a steep 54 degrees, then halfway up visibly loses its nerve and finishes at a gentler 43. It looks exactly like what it probably is. A correction made mid-build in millions of tons of stone where everyone would see it forever. So was the bend a mistake or a message? The builder was Sneferu, father of Khufu, and he is the reason the Great Pyramid was possible. Remember his name because everything he learned here is waiting at number 1. Sneferu built at least 3 pyramids, expedition after expedition of trial and error. The favored reading of the bend is engineering honesty. Cracks appeared, the ground and the angle were too ambitious, and his architects changed the slope rather than lose the monument. A rival reading says the 2 angles were intentional, a double message we no longer understand. The stones support both stories and confirm neither. What is not debated is what Sneferu did next. He walked a few kilometers north and built the Red Pyramid at the safe 43 degrees from the ground up, the first true smooth-sided pyramid, the dress rehearsal for Giza. His son would take those lessons and build the only surviving wonder of the ancient world. One more strange note. For all that effort, Sneferu's body has never been identified in any of his pyramids. The man with more pyramid stone to his name than any pharaoh in history has no confirmed grave. If you are finding this as strange as we are, drop a thumbs up, because number 5 is a tomb built underwater on purpose beneath a causeway at Giza. Number 5, the flooded shaft. Under the stone causeway running up to Khufu's pyramid at Giza is a hole in the bedrock. Drop through it, and you are in a vertical shaft falling in 3 stages, roughly 30 meters into the water table. Workers knew it for a century as a swimming hole. Nobody had properly excavated it because the bottom level was drowned. In 1999, a team led by Zahi Hawass pumped the water down and went in, lowering themselves stage by stage past older burials, the air getting wetter with every level until they were standing where the swimmers' stories had come from. The lowest chamber was cut as an island surrounded by a channel of groundwater, and on the island stood a great stone sarcophagus, its lid ajar with the remains of walls suggesting the whole room was staged, a tomb designed to sit in water. Who builds a grave underwater on purpose? Hawass connected it to the god Osiris, ruler of the dead, whose mythical tomb was said to rest on an island surrounded by water. Under that reading, this is a symbolic grave, theology carved 30 meters into the Giza plateau, reworked and used across many centuries. And the underworld defends itself. Even with modern pumps, the groundwater keeps returning and the sarcophagus sits in a dark pool again today. But no inscription names Osiris, no body settles anything, and the shaft appears on no ancient map. Millions walk the causeway above it every year. Almost none know they are walking over an underworld. And since we are halfway down, half this list is still ahead, including the void. If you are enjoying the descent, take 1 second and subscribe so you do not miss where we go looking next. The Osiris shaft at least lets researchers in. Number 4 does not let anyone in, and it has not for 60 years. Number 4, the pyramid inside the military zone. Between Giza and Saqqara lies Zoyat el-Arian, where in the early 1900s an Italian archaeologist named Alessandro Barsanti found the beginning of a pyramid that would have rivaled Giza. A huge open trench cut into bedrock, a ramp wide enough for a road, and at the bottom, a floor of massive granite blocks. Set into that floor, sealed flush like a bathtub built into tile, was an oval granite sarcophagus with its lid still on. Barsanti reported it empty. The pyramid above was never built, and the king who ordered it survives only in messy quarry marks scholars still argue over. The site fought him the whole way. Torrential rains kept flooding the trench, drowning his excavation under water and mud. Then history closed the door completely. The area was absorbed into a restricted military zone in the 1960s, and archaeologists have not been allowed back since. The trench has spent 6 decades filling with sand, and Barsanti's records are incomplete, so even what was found cannot be fully rechecked. Sit with how strange that is. It puts Zoyat el-Arian in a special category on this list. This is not a mystery with no answer. The answer is physically there, a granite tub sealed in a floor at the bottom of a trench, a short drive from downtown Cairo. It is simply on the wrong side of a fence. An unfinished pyramid, an unopened question, and no permission to ask it. Number 3 is the opposite. A place archaeologists were desperate to reach, so they built robots to do it, and the robots found doors. Number 3, the doors the robots found. Inside the Great Pyramid, 4 narrow shafts about 20 centimeters square run from the king's and queen's chambers through the solid body of the monument. Too small for any human, their purpose debated for centuries. Air vents, star alignments, soul channels. In 1993, a German engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a crawler robot called U-Puout-2 up the southern shaft of the Queen's chamber. 60 meters in, deep inside solid masonry, the robot's camera stopped at a polished limestone slab fitted with 2 copper pins. A door, where no door should be reachable, closing a shaft that goes nowhere a person could ever stand. In 2002, a second robot drilled a hole through that slab on live television, pushed a camera through, and found a small empty space and a second blocking slab behind the first. In 2011, a third robot with a flexible camera looked again and filmed red ochre marks, painted signs on a floor no eye had seen in 4,500 years, and the backs of the copper pins, neatly looped, made with care for a space that was then sealed forever. 3 expeditions, 3 robots, and the result is a door behind a door with writing in between. The leading sober theory calls them symbolic doors for the king's spirit. Maybe, but nobody predicted they would be there, and here is the question no theory has closed. Why does a spiritual door need copper hardware? Which of these 10 would you sneak into if the rules disappeared for one night? Tell us in the comments and stay put, because number 1 is what happens when you stop sending robots into the pyramid and start sending particles from space. First, number 2, the biggest statue of the ancient world, which forgot to mention who made it. Number 2, the face with no name. The Great Sphinx of Giza is 73 meters of lion and king carved from the living bedrock of the plateau, the largest monolithic statue of the ancient world. And on the entire monument, and in every surviving text of its own era, there is not one Old Kingdom inscription that says who made it, when, or what they called it. The mainstream case, built on decades of mapping by archaeologists like Mark Lehner, ties it to Khafre around 2500 BC. The quarry for his pyramid wraps around the Sphinx, the temples align, the geology matches. It is a strong case. It is also formally a case because the builders themselves said nothing. The first written account we have is a dream. Around 1400 BC, 1,000 years after construction, Prince Thutmose IV recorded on a granite slab between the paws that the Sphinx spoke to him in his sleep, and traded the throne of Egypt for a clearing of sand. The monument has collected other questions since. Its head is visibly too small for its body, which some researchers read as evidence of recarving from an earlier form. Its nose was deliberately chiseled off, centuries before Napoleon by an iconoclast whom medieval Cairo hanged for it, according to the historians of the time. 3 tunnels run into its body, dug by unknown hands in unknown centuries leading nowhere. And a fringe geological theory claims its erosion requires rains thousands of years older than Khafre, a claim Egyptology has examined and rejected, though it refuses to die online. Next time you see a photo, look at the head against the body and remember, the most photographed face in the ancient world never introduced itself. The Sphinx kept one secret. Number 1 is keeping a room. Number 1's the void. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the one Sneferu's trial and error from number 6 made possible, is the most measured building on Earth. Roughly 2.3 million blocks, the tallest human structure for 3,800 years, and the manual does not exist. No plans, no texts, no images of the construction survive from the people who did it. And the search for its secrets has never been gentle. In 1837, a British colonel named Howard Vyse hunted hidden rooms by packing gunpowder inside the monument itself, blasting upward through the ceiling stones, and the 5 sealed chambers he tore open held the only place Khufu's name appears in his own pyramid, painted by a work gang. For nearly 2 centuries after, the pyramid gave up nothing more. The first search used gunpowder. The one that finally worked used particles from outer space. So now finish the story from the start of this video. The films in that Nagoya lab belong to a project called Scan Pyramids, teams from Nagoya University, Japanese and French physics institutes, and Cairo University who had seeded the pyramid with muon detectors. Muons rain through us constantly and pass through stone, but the more stone, the fewer get through, which is why a huge excess of them arriving from one direction could only mean one thing: emptiness, where every map said masonry. Above the Grand Gallery sat a massive empty space at least 30 meters long, the length of the gallery itself, sealed inside the masonry. Only after the 2 verification teams confirmed it with their own instruments did they publish in the journal Nature, and the discovery was so unexpected that they refused to even call it a chamber. They called it the Big Void. Then in 2023, the pyramid answered back. The same project confirmed a smaller hidden corridor behind the chevron blocks on the north face, and this time they could reach it. An endoscope slid through a tiny joint between stones and filmed a gabled passage, 9 meters long, empty, that no human eye had seen since it was sealed 4,500 years ago. That corridor is real, photographed, and unexplained. The Big Void is bigger, deeper, and untouched. No entrance, no shaft, no way in that anyone has found. Is it a construction device, a relieving space spreading the pyramid's crushing weight? A second Grand Gallery, an intact chamber holding what robbers never reached? Every option is on the table because the one thing physics cannot tell us is what the emptiness is for. The pyramid was declared fully explored a century ago. It took particles from outer space to prove it was still keeping a room from us. That is why it tops this list. Not because it is the oldest mystery in Cairo, but because it is the newest, found inside the most examined building humans have ever made. Cairo advertises itself as the city of 1,000 minarets, but underneath it is the city of the sun, and beside it stands a plateau that is still answering questions we only just learned to ask. So settle the big one in the comments. Do you think the pyramid builders used simple methods we keep overcomplicating, or techniques that were genuinely lost? One answer means the ancients were better organized than us. The other means they knew something we do not. Tell us which side you take. If you liked watching this video, consider subscribing to the channel and pushing the like button. I'll see you in the next one.